So my name's Rob Tracz. I'm a high performance coach over at Prime Performance Coaching.
Clifford Starks Enterprises, founder of the Fighters Formula.
Excellent. Nate Fochtman, founder of the Freeman Group. All right, Rob, give us a cloud flyover real quick of what it is you do, and then we're going to jump into. I have no questions. I don't know if Clifford told you that I have no questions in front of me. This is just a genuine, authentic conversation. So just know for the next 59 minutes, we are spitballing on your story, completely organic. Yeah.
Yeah. So background strength and conditioning coach, converted over into a high performance coach for solopreneurs, owner operators, essentially helping them generate momentum in their personal lives so that they can achieve more professional success. And I'm moving from coaching into growing a strategy firm. So looking to hire other coaches underneath me, building the mastermind out, speaking on stages. I facilitate workshops around leadership, communication, navigating power dynamics, and just try to get the ball rolling for as many people as possible.
Dude, that's awesome, man. Very cool.
Thanks.
Yeah. Clifford, do you guys know each other prior, or is it cold?
I feel like we know each other well. We've met a few times and we've gone very deep. And I'll also share this. I want to give a shout out to Rob because me and him met. Well, we talked like a couple weeks ago, and he got me thinking about something that I didn't even think about. And I was trying to figure out how to best support him because that's what we are. We're leaders who support each other. And I'm asking him questions, and my original thought was, oh, so you're looking for leverage. And he thought about it for a second. He goes, no, I'm actually looking for connection. And as I drill deeper down, like I like reflecting with things after I have a conversation with someone and I reflected on it. I go, oh my God, all of us just want connection at the end of the day. And the high performers, like I've been a high performer since I was a kid, and I don't say that in any bragging way, but ultimately we want to connect. And most people don't ever realize this. The best way to connect is learning to connect with yourself first. You got to connect with yourself before you can connect with others. But it was really profound because I started thinking like, okay, why do we go after more money? Why do we want more money? Why do we want less risk? Why do we want the safety that we want? Why do we want all the things that we want? And I go, oh my goodness, it's for connection every single time.
We can't connect with other people unless we're ready to receive on our own.
Yep.
Yeah.
I learned that the hard way. I'll tell you, Rob. So my thing is I'm a high performer in my professionalism and my life, as well as like what I do, but also on the flip side, my high performance made me a high performing alcoholic for a long time. So I'm 3 years sober to give you that context, but you'll appreciate as a high performing coach that those are two, most of the time, interdependent things. So so that's something that I don't get too much into in these later episodes because I spent a lot of time talking about it prior, but I wanted to give you context on since you are a high performance coach, so you could. Yeah. I do laugh about it, so feel free. You can smile and laugh. My sobriety and my drinking is something I own, is not a place of shame. I've moved past it and everything like that, and it's a place of strength. So,
yeah, man. Well, congratulations on 3 years because that's no easy feat. So that is awesome for you. Good job.
There's the next layer is 21 years of working in the alcohol industry, so I spend every day in breweries and distilleries.
Oh man,
it's I take that compliment and I'll own it in a non-egotistical way because it is something I do something that not many people can do. So,
yeah. Oh man,
most people avoid those spots, and I walk right in with a smile. So you're good.
You must be like a hardcore adversity drop. You really love some challenge, I guess.
I do. I've always wanted to challenge myself, and I've always been against the norm, and not a black sheep in a sense of getting in trouble, but I never really fit into the anything that was really mainstream. And I'm not esoteric or anything like that. I just look at the world differently, and I always have since I was a kid. So I mean, I was a kid that, like, just for an example, like, captain of football team, captain of the wrestling team, played rugby in high school, but I was also in the play. I was in the band. I went to watercolor classes. I went to stained glass classes. You know what I mean? I was like what they used to in the 90s call like the Renaissance man type thing. Remember that Danny DeVito movie and all that stuff? Like, I was obsessed with that movie. Yeah. Like, I wanted to be a well-rounded individual, and that was my drive. Yeah.
Yeah. I love that. And Cool sports background, because there's pretty much all the same things I did: football, wrestling, lacrosse, college football, rugby. Like
Nice.
I don't want to say I officially retired from rugby, but I stopped going to practice about a year ago. Now that I'm
You're
like,
better than me, man. I quit I had my third or fourth concussion and I quit. As soon as I walked off the pitch, I was like, I'm done.
yeah.
I was like, this must be fun.
I actually would like to talk rugby with you guys because that's the one sport. Like, I was a fighter and I've seen what rugby players can do, and they are gnarly. They're at another level. So what does that feel like to get into the scrums and all of that stuff?
Well, this is a good conversation because we've never talked about it. But Rob, actually, let's go down that path because let's talk, because I'm actually doing this right now. So I'll give you a little 30 seconds. We have I forget what it is, 30 anniversary of Drexel University's Rugby Association that they started. And so we have it in the spring. And so what I'm doing is I go in for 15 minutes with different alums that want to come in from the past 30 years, and they get 15 minutes to tell their story. And what's coming out is, and I'm interested if you have the same thing, is the common pattern that's happening right now. I'm putting it all together into a video for the reception we're going to have in about a month. And look, the common theme I'm hearing is when people, and I feel this as well, is, are you friends with them? I mean, obviously you played up until a year ago, so you obviously are friends. Let's talk about from man to man, your man relationships with other men in your life. Is it pretty easy to say that you're more vulnerable and open and comfortable with your rugby teammates and the people that play rugby with you than you are with other men outside of your family in your life?
Yeah, 100%. I would even say more so than my family. So because I played on multiple rugby teams, like right at the college team, and I started young. So after I retired from football, I moved right into that. So that's right after spring semester, freshman year. Then I started playing. I really connected with all the upperclassmen, and that was like my team. And then when they all graduated and then I became an upperclassman, we had to bring in new people. So then that was essentially a whole nother team. And then the men's league that I play in around here, the Empire League, is like pretty awesome too. But same thing, like you're vulnerable, you're open, you're connected, you go through stuff, right? It's similar. I don't want to compare it to war, but you're going out there, you're battling. And I believe that rugby isn't as necessarily as aggressive because it's like there are rules, there's things you got to do, and you are trying to kill each other at the time while you're out there, but as soon as the match is over, you got like the social aspect of it, and the like camaraderie is on a different level compared to any other sport that I've played.
So Clifford, one of the things that's not talked about in rugby is the social thing you just said. And this is the piece that makes rugby one of the most unique sports that I have ever played in or witnessed or anything like that. It's not in the news. It's not talked about. So I'll give you an example. Like there's matches where I got in a fight with a guy one time in the middle of a match because he started it. We're in the middle of a scrum and my beard was really long at that point. It was probably down to here. And he kept grabbing my the goatee part, and he was ripping chunks of my hair, of my beard out. And in the middle of the scrum, so that's Clifford, that's when you're like locked in over top of the ball and everybody's in a big scrum together fighting for the ball. And so there's a lot of dirty shit that goes on inside the scrum because the ref can't see inside the scrum. So literally you're punching nuts, you're hitting people in the throat. Like guys are I never did that. I was always a submission guy. I never played dirty. But if somebody played dirty, I would counterbalance whatever strength they gave me to dirty and then suppress it with submission. So this guy pulling on my goatee, and I popped right on the bottom of his jaw. I just popped him just to knock him back, and it worked. So then that turned into, for the next hour, us going back and forth and doing very aggressive tackles and very aggressive everything else on each other. Then fast forward to what he's talking about with the social. The moment I fell in love with the sport was right when that match ended. So the number one rule, Clifford, is it's a gentleman's sport. The reason it's a gentleman's sport is you leave everything on the field. Everything. Emotions, like resentment, hate, love, everything stays there, and it's a reset when you walk off the field. So you have a mental mindset that has a physical representation in front of you that transfers you when you walk out and the match ends. And then what you do is, now Clifford, this is going to be crazy, because imagine this, Clifford, you're at a UFC fight in Vegas, and then you and the guy you just beat the fuck out of go to the bar afterwards together and start to go party all night. That's not happening in that sport. That happens in rugby as a team. So as a team, your requirement is post-game is to go, the hosting team, whoever is the home team, has to host you at their place, whether it's a clubhouse of a bar that sponsors them or it's somebody's home. It is a gentleman's sport where it's required to, then you're supposed to come back and socialize and get to know each other as human beings.
So Nate, I'm going to actually comment on you there because So I love that perfect explanation there. But like a lot of times people would always compare rugby with like soccer or
Yep.
America or European football, I guess. But so the comparison though is soccer is a gentleman's sport because you're all polished, all cleaned up, and played by hooligans, whereas rugby is considered the hooligan sport played by gentlemen. And the gentleman aspect of it is like, yeah, exactly what he was diving into. Because that level, like you sing songs, you break bread, you drink together, you like it's totally unmatched.
I wish I could remember the lyrics and we could sing Yogi Bear to Clifford right now.
Yeah.
No,
So Clifford, there's about 12 songs. Like, you know, the Irish guys you see in the bars and the videos and stuff like that. There's about 12 to 15 songs that every rugby player in the entire world knows. And that's what they're drinking songs. And you all sing them together and you drink every time. And they're vulgar as hell. The song. And I'll tell you something funny, Rob. I worked at a summer camp. And what we did was me and my rugby teammate was my other counselor. We took all the songs and changed them into like kids songs, and we had like 200 kids singing them around a campfire, but they were like PC versions of it.
Oh my God, that's so
And then
funny.
one of the kids played rugby in college and sent me a DM on Facebook. It was like, Nate, that song wasn't the song. And I said, I know. I didn't think you'd ever come back to it.
Yeah,
Go a little with your. Oh, Clifford, go ahead, man.
no, I was just saying that's really cool. Like, even when you talk about getting your goatee pulled and not resorting to that level, but
Yeah.
everybody came together to break bread at the end. As when I was a fighter, people would do dirty tricks too inside the cage, and I was like, I'm gonna stick to who I am and let them be whoever they're gonna be. But outside of the cage, the biggest thing I've realized, everyone's more the same than they are different. The more I go through this journey, the more I go, wait a minute, everyone's more the same than they are different. Now you learn to handle capacity more when you do certain things, though. And that's what I respect about rugby so much. That is not an easy sport. Like, I can look at it and go like, that is no joke. And I could only imagine what was going on in scrums.
It's that, and I think it's the impact of a fully fledged man and a fully fledged man running full tilt at each other without pads and connecting. I think that's the part that I never liked. Like, my asshole puckered up every time I was about to that never got easier. The impact part never got easier.
Yeah.
But Rob, is it the same experience for you where it becomes frustrating where you meet these guys and also women? I'm going to also say, we had a women's rugby team. I'm still friends with a lot of those girls and stuff like that. And, they're the same way too. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter which gender it is, but do you feel like it can get frustrating in life because you practice that your entire life? You practice that leave it on the field mentality. Do you struggle with authenticity with people who are inauthentic in life?
I mean, no, but I feel like for myself, at least, I can, for the most part, I can kind of get a good vibe from somebody, just either from like the content or like networking events. I mean, like, I'm sure you've been to plenty of networking events where they're just there to sell you.
Yes.
And they're just like, here, take my business card out, just call me whenever you need me. And like, they're not open to like developing a relationship. And I know for myself, like I've been in a lot of like coaching groups and like networking groups where it's like, you're just feeling the pressure all day long getting sold to. So I've at least made it a staple for myself to try to develop better relationships with people. So like when I do go to these events or conferences and whatnot, like I'm genuinely trying to learn something from somebody. I'm trying to provide some sort of value any way that I can, resource, maybe buying a ticket or whatever it may be, but just trying to reciprocate, put out there. And then you begin to like attract better people, I feel like.
What are some of the like for you, like what are some of the strategy, or without giving the secret sauce or anything like that, how do you kind of go about, like, if somebody's watching or listening right now and already is like, oh, I like this conversation, I like this guy, what are some of the things that they can expect in your style and your strategy when you're coaching?
Yeah, so it's like I try my best to trying my best to not just impose on like what I think everybody should be doing, but like the coaching aspect is like, hey, dig in a little bit deeper. asking better questions and then guiding, or kind of just being that additional perspective or that new lens to kind of look at the problems that come through. So everything that I teach with my coaching, all the principles, is like different strategies on how to assess different things that you're going through, like the workload that you're taking on or putting out, how you're like, what you're consuming, what are your systems like, how is your influence in your communication skills, like are you creating opportunities for yourself and for others, and kind of like looking at where you're at with your own business, and then like, hey, here's some tools, here's how I approach different things. Let's look at this together as like a collaboration, almost like a team, instead of like, here, just listen to what I'm telling you.
When you what are the industries are there any key industries that you kind of excel in, or any specialties, or is it like you can work with any industry and any leader within any industry?
For the most part, it's like the solopreneur, owner, operator, kind of service-based world. And I do that because that's who I was, right? So like in strength and conditioning, I really dove into it because like sports, athletics, the gym, that's kind of was like my gateway to personal development. That's what led me to success. That's what helped me develop my quote unquote family. So I dove in. I was like reading the latest research every month when the journal would come out for strength and conditioning, staying up to date. And that allowed me to scale my book of business up like very quickly. I was at a point where I was working like 15, 16-hour days of training sessions, just back to back to back, and did that for 7 days a week for almost 3.5 years. And which was good because on paper I was successful and doing the things that I wanted to. And I call that period robot mode, which is good because you're efficient, you're making the money and everything. But the problem is I never turned off robot mode. And when you stay in robot mode for too long, you lose that awareness, that emotion, the human side of yourself. And when I was stuck there for so long, the relationships that I was in fell apart. My friends stopped calling me. I missed weddings, birthday parties. I missed all the holidays like Christmas, my birthday, my parents' birthday, all those things. And in that time period, the biggest loss that I had experienced was losing my father to pancreatic cancer. And that came on quick. And I've still the voicemail today when he called me and he's like, "Hey, Rob, I got something seriously I got to talk to you about. Give me a call back when you get a chance." And this was like June, like 15th or something like that. And he passed away at the end of July. So he didn't even have 2 months to live from the diagnosis. And that was the first day that I took off in like almost 3.5 years, was that day. And then the funeral 3 days later. And then I went right back to work and grind for like another 1.5 years until I realized like, hey, where I'm at right now, I'm building this thing that I don't even want. Like, I'm just doing this as a distraction for myself. And until I had that realization, it was just work, 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 work. But then from that point on, I was like, all right, I love coaching, but I don't know exactly what it is. I got to go on this journey now to figure out what I'm going to be doing. And then that led into starting to build my own personal brand, getting into speaking a little bit more, starting my podcast, and then finally figuring out like, okay, so these are the principles that made me successful as an individual. These are also the principles that made me successful as a strength and conditioning coach. I'm just going to bring it over to now helping other service-based solo owner operators as I was, because that's who I resonate the most with.
How did you come to that realization to really step back and look at the bigger picture?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, like when my dad passed, that's when it first hit me. And I was like, oh, like I can't just do this forever. Like if I want to actually live life, I have to like actually live life. I can't just work 24/7. But because, I didn't have a means to process losing my dad. I didn't have a means to, once that realization of like, oh shit, I'm building something where like I'm no longer myself, work became that distraction. So I didn't have to think about the pain and all the other grief and stuff like that. But fast forward about a year or so later, it was like a holiday weekend and all my clients were gone. And I'm sitting in my apartment by myself on a Friday night, like on my phone, basically just like on a dating app, just swiping contact, like who's around, who can train for this weekend. And nobody was around. So then I was like, shit, what do I do? And I was like, well, what do normal people do on Friday nights? And then I was like, well, what did I used to do? And I was like, all right, let me call my friends. I haven't talked to my friends in forever. And they're like, oh, hey, who's this? And I'm like, fuck. And then like no relationship. My dad had passed and my mom is like an hour and a half away. So I was like, shit, this isn't really what I want to be doing. Like, I want to like enjoy life. I want to like live life. And then that's what got me into like starting my personal brand. Cause I'm like, all right, if I'm going to live life, I want to make sure that I'm living my life. I don't want to be just doing what I'm told or what society is telling me that I need to be doing, kind of thing. So I want to figure out myself. And going back to what Cliff said earlier, like, you can't really connect with others until you can learn to connect with yourself. And we try to cover ourselves up with like social media, drinking, food, whatever it may be, to distract ourselves from learning about ourselves or learning about like who we are as individuals. And that's a problem. And until you have a reason to figure out yourself, you're most likely just going to kind of continue on life in autopilot, right? Like, people talk about like NPCs in the world. They're just kind of going through life, not really playing the character.
Yep.
Man, we're connected, man. You're resonating on everything you're saying. I had to laugh when you said about the weekend thing, because I'm the same. I'm still this way. Like Friday night, if there's nothing going on, like I used to watch movies to distract myself or whatever else, and I still get in there. I'm like, all right, well, maybe I'll send out my outbound and I can do my 100 and I can schedule them for Monday so I don't bother anybody on Saturday or Sunday. But I'm the same way. I was like, Saturday, what are we doing? Why is nobody else working? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
there's even days where like I'll do like some Saturdays, like if I'm really bored, I'll be like, all right, I'm gonna go down, and I work with liquor stores all the time. So I do strategy and go to market strategy for beverage brands. So we do everything from concept all the way to the shelf velocity, turn rates, all the marketing, everything like that. And so I'll just go out to the liquor stores because I'm like, well, the owner's not going to be there, but maybe I'll catch him on a Saturday restocking. Because I'm like, what else can I squeeze out of this turnip before Sunday and the new week starts?
I want to share with you guys. So I have a family, 9 5-year-old, and my wife. And I learned to be a better salesperson by navigating with them on the weekends. And I'll explain. I asked my wife, what do you want to do? And she goes, I don't care. What do the kids want to do? So I asked the kids. And they're like, we want to eat at IHOP. So I'm like, okay, cool. Let's go eat at IHOP. We ate at IHOP. And then I go, well, what do you guys want to do next? And they're like, oh, we want to go to the cookie place and then go to the park. I go, okay, let's go to the cookie place and to the park. And my wife goes, this was one of the best days I've ever had. And in my head, like, we just went to a restaurant, got cookies, and went to the park. But it's those simple things, when we just take the time to ask people what they want, they don't want that much.
That's really powerful, and it's one of those things where it's funny you say that, because as I joke around about the weekends, I'm working. The reason I said it's in transition is because I'm trying to slow down, and I'm trying to do that, and trying to like do an open-ended agenda and like let other people drive for a while. Because as you can say, Rob, I'm sure you get a lot of it. I'm a solopreneur as well. I started my business 17 years ago, so I've been through the grind, nearly bankrupt 3 different times, but I don't slow down. So it is a thing. And Clifford, I really appreciate what you just said, because yeah, I needed that right now on a personal level to hear that from somebody. So I appreciate that. Rob, what's kind of the number one thing, no matter what industry, what are some of the top things that solopreneurs struggle with? And I want the audience to know this. This isn't for me, because I think that we look at business a lot and we think, oh, he owns a business, so he must be rich. And I think that's something I appreciate your response. So let's give some context of how it's being a solopreneur is different than being in a partnership with other people and having an infrastructure where literally the buck stops with you and starts with you as a solopreneur.
Yeah. Well, as a solopreneur, like most of the time, like you have a business, but you're really just creating a new job for yourself. And this is the job where like you can never lose the boss. Like you can't just quit and go away, because you are the boss. So you're just constantly like, all right, it's either on me or it's never going to happen, kind of thing. And to answer the question though, I think the biggest thing that people, at least that I see, is like struggling to kind of move the needle forward, because as a solopreneur, there's so much stuff that you can be doing to kind of push forward a little bit. So it's like, oh, maybe I need to work on my marketing, or maybe I need to get a little more clear with my message, or maybe I need to connect with more people and work on my sales, or maybe I have to, maybe I'm not working hard enough. Like there's a lot of different things that come into the picture. Whereas like if you just kind of boil it down and just focus on one thing at a time, that'll help move you forward. And trying to figure out what that bottleneck is the problem, because there's so many different fires happening. It's like, okay, well, which one do I put off? And then I think the biggest issue is the identifying and prioritizing. And people struggle with that. To go back to what we are been talking about most of this episode is like that self-awareness. Like, okay, well, what are my biggest priorities? What are my values? What's the lifestyle I'm trying to live? Like these are the types of questions that you ask yourself so you can make better decisions in the business. But people don't have a system in place to ask these questions because they just don't know. And it's hard to know something if you don't know what you're asking for. So a lot of times the people get caught up. They're like, okay, well, I'm going to do a little bit of this, a little bit of that. And then that creates that movement. And that movement alleviates a lot of the anxiety. So then it's like, okay, put that to the side. Like, oh, I spent a little bit of time on my social media today. I did some outbound emails. Oh, I followed up with so-and-so. So that movement puts that stress at bay for temporarily. But then not much traction happens from that movement. So then when Monday rolls back around or the next day happens, it's like, okay, we're back to the same high level. Like, what do we need to do now? And then it's like panic mode again. And then that's why a lot of businesses end up failing. So congratulations on yourself for 17 years, because most people don't make it to 5, and 10 is like another huge milestone. And I'm at 9 years myself. So next year, January, will be 10 years for myself.
Nice, man. Congrats.
Thank you.
A lot of people like when I talk to them I have another show for the beverage industry called Ready to Drink, and there's a lot of solopreneurs that end up on there. And one of the things is also the loneliness part. And I think like that's something that I didn't think about because I've just kind of dealt with it. And until I started talking to other people, and then they started finding different experiences on that episode therapeutic. Like so Clifford, I went to for both you guys, I went to my first conference 2 weeks ago. I spoke at a conference for the first time, not for the first time speaking at a conference, but the first time speaking where I represented me and I represented my business as opposed to representing my clients or anything like that. And flood of like feedback, and the amount of people that came up to me in my booth afterwards and wanted to work with me or wanted to find projects together. And it was insane for me to like receive that. So back to the beginning of what we just said, it was 2 weeks ago today. I'm still struggling with the amount of messages that are coming into LinkedIn and email of people that just want to connect, just want to hang out, just want to spend time together, and then also want to work together. And it's a weird feeling. So everything you're saying is resonating with me, because even at 17 years, I was always somebody else. As a solopreneur, it was easier to connect to a brand and connect to a client and represent them, as opposed to just being like, boom. And Clifford, I'm going to give him credit as I do sometimes in this episode, but it's true. When we first met I was interviewing him on my show as a guest. I'd never met him before. I sent him, my outbound is one message that says, I'd love to have you on my show. And it's a link to an episode. And then that's all I say to people. And I reach out to CEOs and all this stuff all over the world. And until Clifford, then what was it, like 2 days later or whatever, it was a Saturday, Clifford calls me on my cell phone, which I never shared with him. So I'm not even going to ask how I got that. But no, I'm just getting on my email signature. I'm just kidding. But he calls me and he says, he's like, I just need to talk to you about something. And I was like, oh shit, man, a UFC fighter's calling me on Saturday? Like, what the hell's going on? And he just said, he's like, the amount of outbound that you're doing and the amount of openness that you are and the vulnerability you're putting out there, he's like, I want you to put guardrails up and put some boundaries up and don't be taken advantage of. That was the most powerful thing that anybody's ever said. Because nobody's ever said that, because everybody benefited from my vulnerabilities and my willingness to adapt to them.
Yep.
It changed my life. That one conversation changed my life and built structure and built boundaries that aren't boundaries of like a firewall of fire and moats and alligators. Just, hey, you don't align with me and it's not going to work, and you can be over there and I'm over here and we're good. But I never was able to do that before. I would be offended because they didn't like me or whatever else. So I really respect, Rob, what you're doing. The reason I'm trying to say that is I'm in a place where I finally got past all that. But for you to serve those types of people during that transition, had I met you a couple of years ago, I probably definitely would have like brought you right into that. And I want every solopreneur that's listening to this, because I know there's a lot. 60% of our audience is founders, CEOs, and senior leaders, or it's somebody that's aspiring to be a solopreneur. I want people to understand, and I want to kind of elaborate and ask you a question here at the end, to understand that business is not glorified the right way. The glory in business is not money. The glory in business is the freedom and control and the autonomy to have agency over your life.
Yep.
I think the more, like Clifford was just saying, the more we use that as our mission in building businesses and not money, I think the better our society can be over time. Not tomorrow, but over time.
I agree. And the first time I met Rob, I really resonated with him, and I really resonated with you too, Nate. And to an even deeper level, it's who you become. Who do you become in the business? Like, if you think like you just start as this business owner who knows what to do, who knows the questions to ask, who knows how to show up, yeah, good luck. and that's where I was like, wow, we're in becoming. So like, even with Rob in connection, like I go, oh my goodness, this whole game, the game of life, is about connection, connecting with yourself, connecting with others, really, really having fun experiences. And I don't know if I'm pretty sure I told you this, Nate. I don't know if I told you this, Rob, but my mom was a hospice nurse. And so I got to see people figure things out when it was too late. And that's what made it tough. I'm like, oh my goodness, they're figuring out too, like now they can't do anything about it. Crap. And that's what you guys are bringing to the table. You guys, as leaders and entrepreneurs, spreading that energy. And I want to ask Rob a question too, because Rob, you were talking about the movement. And I'll preface this along my lines. When I went from fighter to entrepreneur, the one thing that would keep me moving, which was exercising, taking care of myself, taking care of my body, I put it on the wayside because I was so busy. Like, okay, I got to go all in on these skill sets. And when I go all in on these skill sets, I can't do anything about this. And I already got this. So I'll just leave it to go get rusty and dusty. And it ended up catching up to me. I was bedridden for 10 days. And I want to ask you, like, what's one of the major like movement problems that entrepreneurs think they're doing it right, and they're putting themselves in a deeper and deeper hole?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's that's a relatively easy answer or question to answer from like the side hustle kind of world. Just for reference, so like my show, the Cliff Spin On, is surviving the side hustle, and I interview a lot of solopreneurs, but generally entrepreneurs in different stages of their journey. And for those entrepreneurs who start as side hustles, they're in that hustle culture where it's like, okay, I just got to grind a little bit harder. I just got to grind a little bit further. I just got to keep going. I got to keep pushing. And for me, that worked really well in the beginning stages for myself, because my identity was an athlete who built this pride on being able to push longer, harder, and further than anybody else. So that is good when you're trying to get started. But then if you're lacking those boundaries, like you were, Nate, I was one of those same people. Like, I would carve out time in my calendar where I'd be like, okay, this is going to be time for my lift. This is when I'm going to study or I'm going to read or whatever. But somebody would cancel, and then somebody would want to move over to that time, and I would people please and be like, okay, yeah, I can sacrifice that. And then with a new space in my gap, somebody else would jump into it. So it was just constantly always pushing myself to the side. And then with the movement thing, people think, oh, I just got to move a little more, keep pushing. But without the boundaries, you don't know when to slow down or to adjust or pivot, because you only know that you got to push more to have more success. And that's essentially what my mission is to be partnering with these solopreneurs to teach them that they don't need to completely sacrifice themselves to achieve the success that they're chasing after. Like, you can redefine the requirements to success with a little bit of strategy and a little bit of game planning ahead of time and awareness.
It's a really important thing for people. I want to kind of put everybody to kind of put a highlighter over that. It's a really important thing. And even 17 years in, I'm still dealing with it. Like I still right now, an hour ago, was sitting down trying to pre-block the next couple of weeks because I know I have things to do. And then I'll tell you, when you get to that Google Calendar and at the bottom of it, like, because it's tied to my Calendly and everything like that, it's that free or busy. And that's the biggest struggle, is that button. Because if I say free, then I block everybody else and I control the time and it's my time. And I struggle on whether or not to make it busy or make it free so that they can come and interrupt my calendar in that time. And that's still 17 years in. I still struggle with that. And I'm trying to make it busy so that they can't intrude on that time. What do you think? Let's pretend like somebody's not a solopreneur right now, but they have aspirations. What do you think are like a couple of reality checks that they should give themselves before diving in too deep, quitting their job, et cetera, et cetera? And I also just went on YouTube to follow you for Surviving the Side Hustle, because I got 25 of them in my history that I attempted with the side hustle thing. So I'm a serial side hustler on top of my business. I got so many damn DBAs and .coms in my GeoDaddy account. So tell people, like, let's talk about that. So somebody's sitting back, let's say right now, let's be honest. There's, in the past 6 months, hundreds of thousands of people have been laid off and lost their jobs across the country. So a lot of them are down, and they're in places where when I got laid off one time, I was in a 6-month bedridden depression. And like, they're there, but some of them are thinking of it as an opportunity. So in case they're listening, let's talk about like some fundamentals and some reality checks. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is to make sure that you are aware of like what you're doing and what you want to be doing. Like going back to the reflection and kind of learning about ourselves, like, okay, hey, I do want to try out this entrepreneurship thing. Okay, well, why? Then like figuring out, okay, is it just to make money, or is it to create, is there a problem that I want to solve? What is going on? And then kind of game planning it out. Like it's hard to kind of answer this question, because if they're, depending on who they are as an individual,
It is a loaded question. I'll own that. Yeah.
If they are thinking about it and they hadn't lost a job and they're kind of still sitting in a position where they have some security with some pay, like income coming in, and they're interested in kind of transitioning out of it, it's slow to kind of put it together, piece it together. You don't have to have the whole thing put together, like polished and ready to roll, because that'll just never get there. It'll just sit in your head and you'll start to piece it together forever. But if it's something you're genuinely interested in, do a little bit of research, look at what it might require. What's the minimum that it'll take for you to take those steps forward? Don't just quit your job unless you have some savings kind of prepared for yourself, because it is hard and it is going to take a lot of time. And depending on where you are with your network and who you can connect with, and like how you can kind of create opportunity for yourself, a lot of things are going to be factors in that decision on when to make that transition and when it could happen. And so if someone's listening, I would really just spend some time, carve it out, like actually genuinely sit down and reflect. Figure out what it is you want to do. Is there a problem that you can solve? Why do you want to do that? What are your values? What's the life you're trying to build? And then do you have the resources to safely make a decision?
I'm going to add one layer on it and ask you like a little more of a leading question is, how important is their home life and their relationship with their spouse when embarking onto this kind of a journey?
Oh, that's massive, right? Like you need to have support. Like you can't just because it's not also your decision. That becomes a group decision, it's a team decision, family decision. And if it's something that you're really passionate about, like you got to make sure that you communicate that with your partner. Like, hey, this is something that I really want to be doing. And like, I'm really engaged and passionate about this, and this is what I want to do. I'm not 100% sure, or at least spend some more time and get some more research. But you just come out and you're just like, hey, by the way, I just quit my job and I'm doing this. Like, it's probably not going to go over very well.
I look at support and being able to take feedback, and I bring this up because as both rugby players, feedback was critical. It was really important. If your significant other isn't believing in you, I think it's important to ask why and really listen in and say, is that true or is it not? Because I know sometimes we can try and posture and be like, no, I got this. And this is why I got this. And like, oh, we're learning, like entrepreneurs themselves learn to become effective communicators. Say as I do as I say. And people they just tend to respond. And no, when you get enough results, they believe you're going to get the result. But if you haven't gotten them, that's the start.
And it's tough too.
Yeah.
Oh, I was going to say, sometimes it can be tough too, because if you have an idea and you haven't really put too much thought into it, like your family, your loved ones, they might kind of slow you down out of security. Like they're trying to protect you from making a bad decision. So you want to make sure that you're prepared with like reasons and understanding, and like not just a rash emotional decision to just like change your whole life and flip things, but figuring it out. Like there's degrees to everything, right? So continue.
Yeah, that's such a great point, because one thing about me, I've been one to say what I want and then figure it out of the way. It's just like, oh, I want this. Like, and then I start learning the lessons. Like, oh crap, I need this lesson. Oh crap, I need this lesson over here. Oh crap, I need this lesson. But depending on the wiring of the person, like my wiring wasn't an athlete's wiring. I'm like, I'm going to do the thing that I said I'm going to do because I said it. And some people, they'll let their family talk them off the ledge and like, oh, well, I guess it wasn't that good of an idea. Or, well, I am missing this, and this, so it's not even worth it. And it's like, is that really true?
It's one of the things too that I love the term solopreneur, because it shows what it is, where at the end of the day, in the back of the house and all the stuff, that it does stop with you, but it's also misleading, because a lot of people like take pride in like, I do this all on my own and I'm a self-made man. The most self-made man bullshit comment in the world. And it's like, no one is a self-made man, because no one. Like, I'm sorry. Like, I know nobody.
I gave credit to myself. Damn
right,
it.
like, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Like, it's like you cannot. You. The more we have these types of things, I used to be like that, and I used to say that about solopreneurship. But it's true. It's not solopreneurship. It's villagepreneurship, because it takes so many other people. Because if you are by yourself and you do hit that wall and you do hit rock bottom and you are by yourself, you're fucked. Like, you're not climbing out of that. Like,
Yeah.
Like your own self-motivation and determination might get you a 300 bench press, but it's not getting you out of that shit.
No.
Like, so I do want to make a joke, and Clifford, even though I do make fun of myself self-deprecatingly that I've let myself go for my physical sense, I do want the audience to know, if you want to learn about me and my new physical ways, I am located in Muscle and Fitness magazine this month. For my work in the beverage industry, not for my bench presses. That is true. But it's one of those things that, Rob, I want to also talk a little bit about you. And real quick, I want to ask you your age for a reason. So what's your age right now?
35.
Perfect. What were you doing in 1999? Where were you, and what was going on in your life?
Yeah, 1999. So I actually was living in a trailer park. My mom, my sister, and myself. My mom and my dad had just gotten divorced about a year or two earlier, and then we left Philly to come up to upstate New York, and we were living in. Yeah, I heard from your Drexel, right?
Yeah, and I played Schuylkill River Rugby Men's Club. Yeah.
Yeah, so I grew up in Springfield.
No shit.
Yeah, Delco.
Yeah, you're a Delco boy. Oh,
yeah. Born in.
When you went to New York, though, or what? You still slip in every once in a while.
No, I wish.
This Delco accent is like, it is a Delco accent, like, and it's one of those things that it's a unique Philadelphia accent.
Yeah, that's so funny. Yeah, no, as soon as I moved up here, I kind of lost it. My dad used to always make fun of me for saying water differently and everything, but he'd always be like,
water boy.
Oh, my dad would always be like, yeah, I gotta stop at Wawa on Sunday before the Birds play to pick up some hoagies. And I'm like, all right.
Oh, that's awesome. Clifford, context to like where I grew up and where he grew up was fine. Yeah, so I'm in Bucks County, Levittown, Yardley kind of. Yeah, Yardley guy. Yeah.
That's so cool.
Yeah, no traffic, about 30, 40 minutes. Yeah.
Yeah. Blue Ray.
Yeah, you go, Blue Ray. There you go, 222 boy.
So the really cool thing about the podcast that we have Nate he likes going in not knowing anything about the people that he connects with. But the biggest thing we're all more connected than we realize. And we're all way closer than we realize.
Rob, I do this, and I want to tell everybody for context, is like I do this because I want the audience to see, I want the audience to take lessons, not of my life or your life or anything like that, but how we interact and how easy it is to connect with somebody in a short amount of time. Because too many times we wall people off and we cut people off and we don't keep them close and we don't try to connect. We don't give them the chance. So like, that's why I go right at 1999. What are you doing? Because right there, you just gave me a snapshot of what your life was in a very thing. And from there, I see the precipice of where you got to where you are. I lived in a trailer park for a little bit in my life too. Like, and that's like, and I lived, and then later in my adult life, I was broke with the business and I lived in motels because I didn't want to quit. Like I didn't want to quit. So I found whatever I was working, whatever job there was for that project, I found a motel near there and that's where I went because I went full into it. And one of the things is, I think that I'm inspired by people like you that every reason you could have stayed in certain places in different stages of your life. And I know it's going through your head right now where you're like, there's that point when I could have stayed there and it would have been acceptable because you would have been with the masses. You would have been with everybody else. You would have been just like everybody else, seeing everybody eye to eye. And I'm not saying you're better than anybody else when I say this, but you did change the alignment and the trajectory of your life at multiple points, I'm going to assume.
Yeah. Yeah, there's different stages and it's like I feel like a broken record, but it goes back to like the awareness and the self-awareness and understanding where you're at and your decisions, because like it's a decision to continue doing what you're doing and following everybody else, and then there's a decision you have to make to step into entrepreneurship or make any kind of change, right? So it starts with that. And like you want to go to the gym, you got to make the decision in your head to get up and actually go and do that.
You're exactly right. What for you, like when you were growing up, what did sports mean to you when you were like middle school, high school, and then obviously in college and stuff?
Yeah, so sports were huge for me because when my parents got divorced, we had moved around a bunch of different school districts. So, and as a young kid, it's hard to like make friends, and it's even harder to maintain those friendships when you're changing, going to a different school, especially back then when there's no phones really or anything. And eventually we kind of landed in the small town upstate New York, and sports were not my thing. I remember my dad trying to get me to play flag football, and he was explaining it to me. He's like, yeah, it's like football. There's no pads and you just have a flag in your pants and people try to grab it. I thought like I literally had like a flagpole in my pants and like I had to run around with that. So I was like, I'm not doing that. But then when I moved to New York, my only friend that was like my actual friend, his dad was the youth football coach. So he encouraged me to come out to football. But the problem being I was heavy for my age. So I actually didn't get to play with anybody in my grade. I had to play with the kids that were older than me. And
when I was in eighth grade, I had to play freshman ball for the same reason.
Yeah.
And I was too big for eighth grade.
I learned two very big lessons that first day of football practice. And the first one was that you can't wear jeans to football practice. You got to have like athletic wear. So I'm like, all right, well, that's a good thing to note. And then the second thing I realized was like, okay, the popular kids, the good kids, they're in a little bit better shape. They know what they're doing. They can get through the warm up without like dying. And I was like struggling to do like that warm up lap. So I internalized that and I started doing the warm up at home. So like the sit ups, the push ups, and I would try to do those. And eventually I would get better at it. And that started to build some confidence. And that eventually led into more playing time. And the more playing time meant I had more friends on the team. And the more friends on the team meant I got invited to more birthday parties in middle school and in high school. And then in order to go to those parties, my mom made sure that my grades were good. So then I'm learning to prioritize grades and how to study and how to set up like systems or at least a schedule at the time. Like, okay, after school, I'm going to do this, blah, 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 blah. And that became my new outlet. So like the sports teams became my new family because my family at home was split up and my younger sister got all the attention from my parents. So I got the attention from my coaches, my teammates, and then other kids in school. And so the sports was always something. And when I got to high school, football was my main thing. I love football. Wrestling, I was really good at. I was varsity captain as a freshman. So 4-year varsity captain. Yeah, and then lacrosse was something that I think I just kind of picked up, and we were a relatively young program. So I started as a freshman, my first year as a junior, as a captain, or my first year was junior year, and I became captain on varsity. So junior, senior year, and sports was my thing. So then when I made decision to go to college, I applied for all these different schools, and out of the 7 schools that I applied to, 6 of them recruited me for football, and the only one that didn't recruit me was the one I chose to go to. And I was like, all right, screw this. I'm walking on the team, and I'm going to prove to them that I can play. So I did, and scored a touchdown, and ended up like retiring after that year. And I was like, this is not fun anymore because it's too much of a job. And then that's how I found rugby, because it was still the contact, it was the camaraderie, it was the social component. And it wasn't as serious as like, okay, you need to go to meetings, you need to do this, you need to do that, like morning lifts and everything. So that's why I'm interested in rugby my whole life. And I was a Wallabies fan in high school. So I was like, all right, let me try this out. And then sports, but without sports, I was like, what am I going to do? And that made it easy for me to get into strength and conditioning, so I could still be around those teams, that still family aspect, and then just continued with life.
I'll give you 30 seconds, and then we'll close out. I just got to connect with you again. Like, so graduate high school, got recruited to 7 different colleges for wrestling. Didn't want to wrestle in college. I was like, I want to move on with my life. I want to put that behind me. I go to Drexel, and I get into Drexel not because of wrestling, but because of somebody through wrestling. Like, it ends up working in admissions, and I fill out the wrong application, and she put the application in the right bag. Anyway, she writes me a letter of recommendation, and she worked in admissions, so obviously it wasn't that great. It was my personality, it was my job that she knew. See, that's the thing, is my whole life I've been given because of academics. I've always failed on academics, always in academic probation. Same exact damn thing. When I got to Drexel, I said, no, I need to prove it to myself that I was. So I'm at a party, and I end up at a party with the heavyweight and one of the lighter heavyweights, and we're all hanging out, and they're like, man, you're really cool. Like, and then all of a sudden we start talking. I was like, yeah, I used to wrestle. I don't want to, blah, blah, blah. And then all of a sudden they were like, oh no, you need to come on the team. We got an opening and we need somebody in here. And I'm like, you know what? I do need to prove it to myself. But then literally and then the coach, I was like, no, I don't want to do that. So I got an email from the wrestling coach at Drexel, and he's like, hey, I heard you're on campus. Heard you got some experience. We got an opening. But the universe did not want me to continue wrestling, because that next day my dad got laid off and I had to go get a full-time job. That full-time job ends up leading into everything I do today, and everything is a precipice to why I started my business. So I say this with a positive intent, that the universe took me a different way. But the next day after that, I said, man, I need some camaraderie. I thought I was going to join the wrestling team. I got to get this job. This sucks. I'm working with 60-year-old men in a warehouse. I'm not connecting with any of them. The next week, walking by, dude's outside with a bong outside of a dorm. And I'm like, I like weed. Let me go hang out with you. So I sit with him. We smoke a bong. And then I was like, what do you do? And he right behind him, he pulls this weird football. And I grew up in West Virginia and rural Pennsylvania. Rugby was not a thing. I never knew what the hell it was. And he's like, holds this oblong thing over, and he's like, well, this is what I play. Why don't you come over tomorrow? And I was like, he's like, I think you'll like us. He's like, we're all recovered we're all recovered football and wrestling. And I walk that first practice. Everyone is the same situation in life. Everyone's blue collar. Everybody's wants to just live their life while also participating in a sport, but not letting the sport control their life. And so I want to connect with you that's exactly how I ended up in rugby. And almost all of my teammates were the same exact way.
Yeah, I love it.
So closing out, Clifford, if you want, you can give some closing out, and then Rob will let you kind of give out all your contact, your website, where to everybody to find you on social media. You're definitely coming back. We're going to start doing some roundtables this year. So I want to let you know to keep that in the, I got to work out, Cliff and I got to work out some topics for those on the back half of the year. But just thank you for coming on. So Clifford, closing out on that one.
Well, I first want to say, Rob, thanks for coming on. And I love that you connect with high performers. One thing that I notice consistently, because I love patterns, high performers ask some of the best questions. That's why they're able to navigate the way that they navigate. And yeah, when Rob comes back on again, I want to ask, what are some of the questions he asks himself in his head to get to where he's going? Because Rob's a beast. I'm so grateful and honored to have him on here. But Rob, did you have anything that you would want to share, and how can people connect with you?
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you guys for having me on. So this was awesome. I love I like the blind whole approach to it. It makes it unique, more authentic, and we get to find out some awesome stuff. Which, by the way, when you were talking about the wrestling there, and the guys were saying that they had an opening, I was like, oh, an opening, huh?
Yeah.
I could hear
You're
that.
just gonna destroy me on the mat. I know. I was gonna be their drill partner. I wasn't starting.
So so this was awesome. I really appreciate you guys having me on, and yeah, definitely open to coming back on in the future. Best places to connect with me, the easiest place is just my website at robtrazy.com or on any of the socials, mostly hanging out on Instagram and LinkedIn. Same thing, you just easily find me. But then also another great spot is my podcast, so Surviving the Side Hustle. You check that out at survivingsidehustle.com or Apple or Spotify or wherever you guys are listening to your favorite podcast besides this one. And then, just kind of reach out. Let me know if you have any criticism, or you've really enjoyed anything that I said. Love connecting with people. Genuinely love to just have conversations and connect.
Awesome. You'll see me connecting with you online as far as that goes. So you'll see Free Mind Nate on your socials connecting with you, as well as LinkedIn and YouTube, and as soon as we hop off here today. But Rob, I want to say thank you for not just thank you for coming on, but thank you for having the balls to come on a blind show. Because as it is fun, we get rejections a lot, and on both shows, because it's the same format on both are blind, and people don't want to come on, and they want questions, they want prep, they don't want to come on blind because they're afraid. And it takes courage to come online, and that's our filtration process. And that's how we know when people are willing to come on. Regardless of it, we're going to get a great story, as well as we're going to get it to meet somebody who has integrity and who has confidence and who has a foundation of what they're doing, because those are the only types that come on this show. So kudos to you, and feel that pride, take that compliment. Man to man, you need it, and I need to give it to you. Now on the other side, to the rest of the world, as we're closing out. This world, as I say every time, is a beautifully destructive place. As you're walking down the street, everybody that's listening, look every stranger in the eye, put your phone down while you're out in public, and actually look strangers in the eye, hold the door for somebody, pay attention to who's behind you. And when you're at the gas station filling your cup of coffee, look to the person next to you, ask them how they're doing today, and actually close your mouth and listen to what they say and care. Because at the end of the day, whether you like people or not, people need, like Clifford and Rob were saying today, people need connection. And even if it's only a connection for 4 minutes, it could change their life. And that's what it comes down to. It doesn't cost anything to be a good person, and it just takes a little bit of time. And honestly, we all have 5 minutes, we all have 1 minute, we all have 15. We can find it. So Rob, thank you again for your courage. Thank you for sharing your story and connecting with us. Clifford, as always, thank you, Big Cat. All right.
Yes, thank you, my brother.
All right, guys, you enjoy the rest of your day.
All right,
Rob, I'll reach
appreciate
out
you
to you
guys.
later today and connect
Have a
with you,
great
buddy.
one.
Peace, guys.